inevitable.
What in the wide, wide world of sports is going on here?
You're listening to The Review on the OSG Podcasting Network.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining The Review. It's the online Sports Guys College Football podcast where we talk about things that are going on in the world of college football because, as every one of us knows, college football never sleeps. It only takes naps, and it doesn't take very long naps at that.
Power naps.
Yeah. Power naps, if you will.
Or go naps.
We are the Online Sports Guys, the OSG Sports team. You can find us on the internet at theonlinesportsguys.com. He is OSG Nelson. He is Jay Wilkerson 16. For those of you watching on the YouTube, in one box in the other, I am OSG Phil in the third box and the one that's talking right now. And guys, I want to start off this week by bringing up a subject that's coming to a very, very swift conclusion, and that's the one-time transfer rule. The ACC has put their spoken up. John Swofford saying it's inevitable. The Big Ten has said, yeah, we need to do this. There's no reason not to do it at this point in time. Guys, is this something that's a game changer? Is it the natural progression of things, or is it something that's going to completely ruin what once was a pure sport?
All right, so I'll take it. I'll lead off here. The way that I look at it is it's an inevitability. And the best way that I can describe it is this. We all saw the movie Ghostbusters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So look at it this way. I look at it as free agency and the NCAA are part of the Ghostbusters. Free agency might be Gozer the Gozerian. And you're probably going to have John Swofford and all the other commissioners as the Ghostbusters. So you have free agency as Gozer the Gozerian and John Swofford and pick another commissioner. They all want, Bob Bowlesby or whomever. They are waiting for that moment when Gozer the Gozerian, they're trying to figure out who's going to address Gozer for the first time. And you end up with that moment where Dan Aykroyd's character says, okay, I'll do it. And then Bill Murray's character says, right behind you, Ray. I think that's where we are. I think that Bill Murray is the Power Five conferences as all of these folks are having to address free agency, Gozer the Gozerian, for the first time. And then when Gozer gets mad after the question's asked, are you a god? And Ray says no, and then he gets zapped and they have to save him off the edge of the building. I think that, once again, when you're asked if you are a god, you say yes. And that's where we are right now, with Gozer being free agency and the Ghostbusters being the guys who have to fight it for the first time. It's an inevitability. And then you have to clear your mind and hope that the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man doesn't crush New York City, whatever analogy you want for free agency that is. But I think that's where we are, is that you have all of this fighting going on with this great big monolith known as free agency or transfer rules or portaling or whatever you want to call it. Yes, exactly. And so the Ghostbusters now have to fight it, and they have to figure out how to do it, and they do it by crossing the streams. And so you just have to figure out how the Ghostbusters in the college transfer sense are going to cross the streams and tackle free agency. But it's an inevitability for me, Wilkie.
Yeah, I think you guys know my stand, and it's always been, whatever's good for the college athlete, I'm for. And the one-time transfer rule, you have only in the money sports, football, men's and women's basketball, and baseball is where you have this sit out for a year when you transfer. All the other sports on the college level, you can play immediately. So if you get the one time, now it's all uniform, and I like that. And I like the fact that players in football, men's and women's basketball, and baseball can, if they're not happy where they are, they were not penalized for moving on to another school. It could be any reason. I just think, I just never really understood why that you had to be penalized for a year to move on to another school, and the situation just wasn't right for you. But the layers of the ripple effects, the layers are just so many, and it's really concerns me about some of the ripple effect with the fact that they can move on. I love this quote from, we're going basketball here, but a coach I have a lot of respect for and I've gotten to know, Muffet McGraw, saying it's just the way the society is. And, are you going to be in the handshake line after a game and the coach is going to go, hey, I saw you didn't play much. Why don't you just come over here and see if I could play you more? There's sarcastic reactions to this. You've got coaches from, and again, I'm using the basketball analogy here, although this is a football show, about creating a trade deadline in college athletics and doing it before the conference season starts. And I'm going to stick with basketball here. We've got March Madness coming up. Mm-hmm. I think this will kill the mid-majors making runs in the NCAA tournament, because what you're going to see here is guys that are playing at the mid-major level, that game has developed in a few years, moving on from the Horizon League or the Big Sky or whatever, and going to a power conference. Now, there's a little more than just 5 power conferences, in my opinion, in college basketball, because you got the Big East, which I think is as good as any league in the Power 5, as well as the American, which I think is good in college football. In college football, your rosters are going to be a mess. Because you're not going to have the consistency. You're basically going to have what college basketball is suffering through, men's college basketball is suffering through right now with the one and done rule. You just don't have a consistency of rosters. And if that hits college football, the style of play is going to suffer. The group of 5 is just going to become like a G League. And I don't know what's going to happen to FCS because if those guys develop after a couple of years, I don't know if North Dakota State can sustain the level of excellence that they've been able to in the FCS level. I just think there's so many layers of ripple effects in this that I think it's going to take it's going to be a long time for college football to adjust to the free agency. Because, I look at the Kelly Bryant scenario at Clemson, 4 games in, and he can maintain his eligibility, and he didn't like the decision Dabo Swinney made, and he knew he had that card in his back pocket, and took his efforts somewhere else. And now we're starting to see that more in college football, where with the 4-game redshirt rule, you get 4 games, you don't like where you are, well, I'm just going to go in the portal.
Okay, so
this is crazy.
Before you go any further, let me take the Kelly Bryant point and add something to it. When you have someone like a Kelly Bryant Wilkie, and I'm asking you this question.
Yeah.
When you have someone like Kelly Bryant who decides, let's use Tate Martell. Hell, let's use that as an example.
Yeah.
When you have an athlete like a Kelly Bryant or a Tate Martell, and you have skill position players like this who aren't happy with where they are, and then they decide 4 games in or whatever that they're done, what is going to prevent a college coach from avoiding an athlete like this if they do this one-time change and then they're still fed up with it, then they're thinking about going in other places?
Their second transfer, you mean?
Yeah, if they're still fed up after this if the first step through the portal, which is a get out of jail free card, that one happens, that's cool. That happens anyway. We just call it portaling. So that after that in that second school, you're still mad for whatever reason. You don't want to go.
Then you've got your penalty.
Right. But at the same time, though, I'm saying outside of the penalty, Phil, I'm saying what is to keep a coach from avoiding student athletes like this who want to hopscotch from school to school, take advantage of this get out of jail free card, and then try the second school. The second school pisses them off, and they want to go and do something. Yeah, they have the penalty, but how many coaches are going to avoid these student athletes from the second time around just because they see who these athletes and these student athletes are? They're looking to benefit their situation. They're not there to help the school, even if it is a one and done.
That's an easy answer. And I think we all three know the answer to this, because if the kid's good enough of a football player, they're not going to make an exception, or they're not going to run away from somebody if they think it's somebody that can come in and help them.
But I just want to know how many of them will make that decision with the second school after the get out of jail free card. That's, when you see a Kelly Bryant.
Well, the players have a different option now, and it's called the XFL, because they have said that they're going to go after anybody over 18. And let's say I'm going to play with your scenario here, John, where you've used your get out of jail free card, and now you're not happy with your second situation, and you want to move on. And the coach from that, if coaches just don't want to touch you because for whatever reason why you want to leave your second school, they got the option, if they got the talent, to get paid and play in the XFL, and which is, could be a minor league system for the NFL. I mean, now they have that option. And, to me, I'm just wondering, with all these great college football coaches out there, how many of them are going to just throw their hands up and say, I can't do this anymore. I can't manage a roster. I recruit these guys, but where's the level of commitment from my recruits? Throw your hands up and get an NFL job, whether as a coordinator or as a head coach, or maybe go to the XFL, because the headaches just, you've got guys under contract for a number of years, and you can maintain a roster. I think to me, that is the biggest ripple effect of this transfer rule, because of the fact that you've got the 4 games in your red shirt, you got the transfer portal, and now this. I look at the coaching aspect of it, and I'm just wondering, how long can you just not be able to manage a roster and know that by the time you've set your roster in spring football, by the time you get in October, that's been blown apart.
But think about it this way, and I was going to bring this up earlier on. If you're coaching a program, you're be it guys taking the early route to the NFL, guys getting injured, just general attrition by the graduates of seniors, you're turning over rosters every year anyway in college football. So I'm not sure that there's that big of a difference. The question is, and it's one that hasn't been answered yet and probably won't until the proposal comes to the floor for a vote, is, are there going to be deadlines on this?
Well, yes, you're right about the senior class, but there are times where you have maybe single digits of a senior class moving on, and then you've got guys that have used their 3 years to go to the NFL. I think that's manageable because it's part of your recruiting. But when you've got guys leaving in mid-season, heading into October, when you're getting into your teeth of your conference play because they're not happy, they put themselves in the portal, and now you've got the other option of transferring out and not being penalized by it. There's just, look, again, I'm all for the players and free agencies, but there's got to be some kind of I want to say rule or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what it is, because
you've got to have a guard. You've got to have guardrails in place here.
Right. Exactly. Thank you.
And I think that the XFL, to your point, Wilkie, I think that the XFL is its own guardrail for the second school out, because with the schedule being when it is, all that student athlete has to do is sit there and say, all right, fine, 4 games in or whatever, I'm not getting any work in this second school. I'm just going to withdraw from school. Then I'm going to go to the XFL training camps after my school's schedule is done. And then I'm going to go to the XFL training camps and try to get a job there. But once again, if you don't prove yourself in the XFL, then what do you have to fall back on? And the answer isn't a whole lot. But Wilkie, to your point, I think that I think in the secondary sports. I think that, and I'll use basketball as we'll say women's hoops, secondary sports, things like that. I think that you're really going to have serious effects with kids that want to go and try and ply their wares someplace else. And I know that we make the joke about the recruiting and the handshake line, but you're going to have a lot of coaches who want to better themselves in the short term, trying to chase after kids who they see at the ends of benches, not starting or whatever. And I think it's going to be an interesting social dynamic to see how this plays out, even as you have a lot of these coaches and a lot of these schools who accept transfers anyway. How many of them are going to go start chasing after that one and done to improve themselves if they're a 500 team to try to make themselves a tournament team? If they're a tournament team that wants to make themselves into a Sweet 16, all of that self-improvement in the short term, I think, is going to be the interesting social part of this.
And to me, it's, if we're going to use a basketball analogy here, and we are
Sure.
in March, the mid majors are gonna die because you're going to have a guy at a Missouri, right? You've got to get. Normally mid majors, what I loved about them, and I still love about them, is you got guys that play 4 years and they develop. Okay, well now if you're playing in Missouri Valley or a West Coast Conference,
like a John Morant out of Murray State.
Yeah. I mean, if he developed into an NBA level guard at an Ohio Valley school, but if he's being looked at by a Power 5 school and approached at a camp or whatever, or in a handshake line when they're playing a money game and saying, you got a year of eligibility left, you need to come over here, I think you can play in our league. Well, that's what you might see. And that will kill the mid majors. You're not going to have the Cinderella runs that you had with the George Mason or Wichita State a few years ago when those mid major programs made it to the Final Four. We've kind of seen that in a roundabout way. I'm thinking about a couple of years ago when Louisville had a couple of grad transfers come in from mid major schools, one from Cleveland State and one from Drexel. And they significantly improved a Louisville team that was supposed to be kind of down for Rick Pitino that year. And if it wasn't for the imposed postseason ban toward the middle of that year, they probably would have made a nice little run in the ACC and NCAA tournament. So each sport is going to have their challenges. To me, with college football, how do you manage your roster? I mean, you've got so many distractions now, so many ways that roster can get imploded during the season now. And John, to your point, there needs to be some kind of guardrails. Now, there are in free agency in baseball. You have to have 6 years of service before you're considered for free agency. I don't know what that looks like in college athletics, whether it'll pass the legal hurdles. And then it just popped in my head. I'm sorry, Phil. That's what popped in my head was the value of these TV contracts now, because if this keeps up, I just see all this, how ESPN and Fox have both invested in college athletics and have ties in the Power 5 conferences. Those contracts might really be eroding in value if we keep up with this circus of players moving on to other programs, and you've got your blue blood programs starting to suffer, and then big name coaches are saying, what the heck, I'm going to go NFL, XFL, whatever, so I don't have these headaches anymore.
Yeah.
But we already have a form of this. Look what happened. Look what's happened with Jamie Newman from Wake Forest, who became a grad transfer, is going to Georgia to use up his final year of eligibility. Newman was a damn good football player at Wake Forest, but he was perfectly honest in saying that he went to Georgia because he wanted more visibility. And that's the world that we live in.
But he's also a grad transfer. He's not a freshman or a sophomore who's already established him. Jamie Newman has a body of work. He's a graduate transfer. He's already done the academic part of this whole process. So for me, I'm fine with grad transfers. Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I am too.
Yeah,
Russell Wilson's a good example. Yeah.
Get to finish my point.
Go for it.
The other part of that is to talk about guys just picking up and leaving. In order to do something like this, and nobody said one way or the other if they're going to do it, you need to have restrictions on this being okay. Guys are out. If you're gonna transfer, you're eligible to transfer as a football player between January and March, or you're some sort of restriction like that to keep it from happening in the middle of the season. Yeah, you're going to get cases where a coach is going to walk by you at the end of a game when you're shaking hands and say, "Hey, I noticed you didn't get to play very much. You ever think about coming here?" I saw a quote this week from Nick Saban who kind of summarized it, saying basically, if you're a college football coach, you're going to have to re-recruit a lot of your kids every year.
Well, it's a one-year contract anyway. I mean, the scholarships are one-year contracts, so that's nothing new to me.
Yeah, and all this.
Well, see, I think that might change. That might be one of these ripple effects where you get a 4-year scholarship to certain players or to the entire squad. I mean, these are things that the NCAA or whoever runs college athletics for the next 10 years are going to have to decide.
The Power 5 coaches.
Yeah. I mean, do you have like a ultimate commitment scholarship to your 5-star? It says sign this, you get 4 years of room and board and your classes paid for. Yeah. I mean, are those the max contracts that are going to be handed out to college athletics? Those are things you're going to have to think of. I like your idea, Phil, of a short period of time of when you can transfer, but that would just kill the redshirt rule in a way, because which is kind of what these athletes, and especially in college football, are abusing that rule now. I mean, it used to be once you got into the game, you burned your redshirt rule. Now, hey, we're going to give you 4 games to see if you like it, and if you don't, we'll move on. Go back to the old rule then. If that's going to solidify your roster, go back to the rule. Once you go in, your red shirt's burned.
Yeah. I think this is a great topic and something we could talk about forever. And I love the differing perspectives because change is a scary thing. Change is not something that comes easy, particularly when it comes to sports or everyday life for that matter.
No kidding.
And we're about to see, I'm trying to think of the best way to put it.
It's a sea change. It is a sea change in college athletics.
Yeah. We're about to see Thanos in the Avengers snap his fingers and change the world. The question is, how is that world going to change after the finger snap?
True.
And guys, for that, why don't we go ahead and end this first block here of the show? We'll move on to some other things, some news and notes in the second half of the show, including a big change for an SEC coaching staff, and a couple of news and notes about an extra bowl game, and a few other things going on in the world of college football that are which hopefully will give you a good reason to stick around for another 20 minutes or so of the review. You are listening to the review on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network.
The online sports guys would love to hear from you. Go to our Twitter page at OSG Sports for a comment, rant, or just whatever's on your mind about college football.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Appolinsky at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Appolinsky is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
If you want to scale a mountain, buy boots. If you want to turn your crush into something more, say hi. At Country Financial, we know protecting the things you love and preparing for tomorrow start with simple steps. So we help you take small steps today with insurance and financial services that can have a big impact on your family's future.
For all your home, auto, and life insurance needs, call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871.
Oh, yes, I remember now. Missed it by that much.
Thanks for sticking around, folks. You are listening to the second block of the review here on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network. We are talking college football. With me, OSG Nelson, Jay Wilkerson, 16. I am OSG Phil, and we are talking about the great big wide wonderful world of sports, also known as college football. Guys, a few things here to go through before we wrap up another episode. Big changes in the SEC as legendary Alabama strength and motivational coach Scott Cochran leaves his longtime gig at Alabama to join best buddy Kirby Smart at the University of Georgia to become the special teams coordinator. Good
Make it
move.
sound like Tony Robbins.
Good move, bad move, interesting move, or irrelevant?
Wilkie.
I lean toward irrelevant. I think it's much ado about nothing. I think everybody is trying to crack the wall of Nick Saban, but to me, hey, it's an opportunity for Scott Cochran to work with Kirby Smart, and I don't read anything more into that than that.
Yeah, the way that I look at it with Scott is Scott said that he wanted to be a head coach someday. And
that's true.
You're not going to do that as a strength and conditioning coach. And what this special teams coordinator handle gives him is the ability to hang out with players 12 months out of the year. This kind of works its way around being a strength and conditioning coach. It gives you strength and conditioning underpinnings and it's a part of the resume. But in the grand scheme of things, special teams coordinator. Okay, great, fine. You get to hang out with the kids 12 months out of the year. You're going to tell Rodrigo Blankenship, if he was still around, that he's not doing it, that he's not enthusiastic enough when he's place kicking? No.
You have to visualize.
Yes, you have to make sure that everything is here in front of you as it should be. But no, for me, Scott Cochran, like I said, you're not going to be a head coach just being a strength and conditioning coach. You've got to get position experience behind you and figure out what you want to do from there. I know that a lot of Georgia fans are sitting there and saying that this is Kirby poking the bear and taking Alabama away from Nick Saban piece by piece because he wants to be Alabama East. I can understand that until it happens on the field of play. Yeah, all right, fine. So let's see what Scott does, and let's see if the folks in Athens do the same obnoxious third down video board rant and rave that they had in Tuscaloosa with Scott. Let's see if that transfers to Athens too. And that was one of the most obnoxious things ever.
Interesting report from our friends at 24/7 Sports. They talk about Texas head coach Tom Herman making a pilgrimage up to South Bend to talk to Notre Dame coach Brian Kelly about how to rebound from a disastrous season where you did not live up to expectations and make it to the college football playoff.
That's a bad destination to go then.
Wow. I mean, yeah. I mean, what is Tom Herman setting himself up for here?
I believe it is a two syllable word. It's a 2-word phrase called failure.
Or let down?
Yeah, let down.
Well, Charlie Strong is looking for a job.
Hey.
A couple of interesting notes out west this week. The announcement of yet another December bowl game.
Cronky World.
At Cronky World, SoFi Stadium will be hosting the appropriately titled LA Bowl.
The La Bowl.
La.
La 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 la.
Actually,
insert Elton John here.
Just
Crocodile Rock.
Yeah, just call it La Bowl.
It will feature the number one team from the Mountain West, probably Boise State.
Well, they needed one because Mountain West, I think, got bumped out of a bowl. Vegas, I want to say.
Bowl. Yeah, Vegas Bowl.
So
Vegas.
Yeah.
Versus the number 5 team in the Pac-12, otherwise known as the team to be named later.
Woof.
Probably a Washington State, Arizona State, Utah kind of mixture there. Wow. How many people are going to show up to watch this?
12.
Probably the same 5,000 people who show up for all the December Bowl games.
Hey, if it's paid for and the 4-letter adds it to its ESPN events or CBS or whomever, it's going to find a partner.
It's an ESPN Bowl. Come on, they're part of this.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, fine. What a shock. Unless FS1 gets into the mix and tries to do something West Coasty. That's the only thing I was thinking. But yeah, La Bowl. Woo.
News here. Interesting conversation from USC Athletic Director Mike Bone in a local podcast out there on the left coast. He was asked if they would consider football going independent or joining another conference. The answer being everything is on the table.
Of course. What a shocker.
He comments.
Well, that's the only brand name they have in the Pac-12 right now. And why not use the strength of that brand?
Exactly. That is holding the Pac-12 over the proverbial barrel. And I've also heard that Larry Scott, his future is hanging in the balance right now. And when you're the biggest bully in the playground right now, USC can say all they want, and it would whatever USC wants at this point.
Because they're being dragged down by the Pac-12 members. I mean, that is the brand name in the college football out of the Pac-12, and they are becoming more and more irrelevant, and that can't happen. And going independent status, or at least having the using that leverage that they have.
Absolutely.
I don't blame them.
Nope.
Yeah, Bone did backpedal the next day by saying, why would we do that? There'd be no way for us to do that. But then in the next sentence said, but if something weird happened, like say NBC walked up and said, we want you guys to be like a Notre Dame, that might be a little different.
Could you imagine? Think about it. Think about this for a second for NBC. Could you imagine college football Saturdays with Notre Dame and USC double headers on NBC?
Yeah, that's an awesome idea. I love it.
Yeah, I'm all for it too. And if Texas gets a little antsy with the Big 12, you could have a triple header.
The NBC triple header of Notre Dame, Texas, and
Southern Cal. Yeah, wouldn't that be something?
One at 1:30, one at 5, and one at 8.
Prime time. Yeah.
9. Like if you did 1:35 and 9 Eastern, something like that, or 1 4:30 and 8.
And
something like that.
I'll take it a step further because they can have a rotating series between the three of them.
True.
And get in that college football playoff mix and have something similar to the Commander-in-Chief trophy.
Call it the Peacock Trophy.
Exactly.
Who's to say they couldn't start their own little group or Power 5 conference there? You get a couple
I think we're on to something, especially with BYU. BYU in the mix?
Yep. And Boise State's already voiced their displeasure with the Mountain West.
I think we're on to something, boys.
We need to patent this quickly.
Patent it quickly, yes. This is our idea.
Yes.
I think we found our way to riches.
Yes, we have.
Are you hearing Texas? Are you hearing?
No. They can't hear us yet. We need to have the gear.
No.
We have to market the gear. We have to print the gear up and market it all. And then that way we can sit there and have it in the catalog and people can buy T-shirts. And then this groundswell of opinion turns into $1 gazillion. And we can broadcast all the games.
And the last thing I'll bring up here before we wrap things up here on the review, guys, have you paid even the slightest bit of attention to the NFL draft combine where all the college athletes are basically doing practice drills and
market that is the NFL
showing up
draft.
in their underwear?
Yeah.
Only thing I've seen is offensive linemen are a lot faster now than they used to be. They're running below 5:40s.
And when you have punters who do
out bench press linemen,
did the 26 bench presses and they're at the top of the ladder. Good for special teams.
Woo! Maybe that's what Georgia's doing by bringing Scott Cochran in.
Oh God!
You remember back when you had scrawny punters in the NFL?
I remember scrawny punters. I remember punters who smoked too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ray Guy was about as athletic a punter as I could remember, and he was pretty wiry, but the guy could play. But there were some guys when we grew up in the NFL that were punting that you're like, yeah, how the hell did you get this job? Oh, you can kick 40 yards.
Bobby
imagine-
Walden,
Bobby
Xena
Walden,
Decision.
Imagine a world where you got a bunch of jacked up punters running around, kicking the ball 50 yards and going downfield and tackling people.
There's a few Australian guys I know that did it. There were some
Marquette-
hard hitters too.
Marquette King in the XFL would love to do it.
We're devolving here real quickly, guys. Why don't you say we wrap things up for this week?
Nothing
Let's
wrong.
wrap it up.
Nothing wrong with devolving, but we do have to print the gear for the mega playoff very soon.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. I guess with that being said, I will put this show to a wrap. Make sure you find us kids on social media, just like everybody else. We are there. Easy to find at OSG Sports on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Not hard to look up at all. You can find all of our content there. Plus, we have a phone app, and it's free. Free.
Oh, there's a reverb.
Go to the Google Play Store, the Apple Store, look up OSG Sports. We are there. You can get all of our content on your phone and listen to it in your car. We are everywhere on all the podcasting networks, including our host, Spreaker. Guys, we need to be in more places. We have to think of more places to be, including, well, never mind. All that being said, let me say goodbye now because I'm getting diarrhea of the mouth and I'm starting to babble and not make a whole lot of sense.
Well, we always babble and don't make a whole lot of sense. We just need to wrap up the show for this week.
Yes, we do. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. You have been listening to the review on the OSG Sports Podcasting Network.